Hello and welcome to my final presentation on political polarization and the effect that news plays on strengthening party identification. My name is Matthew Sinkfield and let's begin. So my motivation today is the January 6th insurrection on the Capitol, which was made quite striking by the fact that we had gotten to a point that polarization in this country has grown to such an extent where people are willing to overthrow a free election in order to keep their preferred candidate in power, both breaking the democratic system and the trust that we have in politicians that needs to be repaired moving forward. My research question today is to answer what explains the increase in this party polarization, if indeed there is an increase. And it's going to be measured by the favor towards each political party, which would represent the political identity that would be for each individual. According to previous research on the subject, we've found that UC Berkeley had a finding that since 1994, Americans who see the opposing party as a threat to the nation's well-being has doubled, and that also that in the time that Fox News had been increased, it was able to increase voter turnout by up to 0.7 percentage points in areas where Fox News was introduced. And this just goes to show that people are watching the news and using it for political means, that the way that we watch news helps influence the decisions that we make about politics and the views that we hold. So my idea is to look at how that influences our political decision makings and if those decisions increase polarization. So like I just mentioned, my research is going to look at the impact that news consumption has on partisan identity, with my hypothesis being that the more news that is consumed in a given week would increase favor for the individual's political party. And through that affirmation of political beliefs, that polarization would increase as people get more sure of their views. I'm going to be using the ANES 2016 election data with 4,270 people responding to the data. Those are both made up of face-to-face interviews as well as internet-based responses. The measures that I'm going to be using for this research are going to be the amount of days reported spent watching the news each week as my independent variable, which would affect the dependent variable being favorability as measured on a 0 to 100 scale of a feeling thermometer for the Republican and Democratic Party. I'm looking at both of those parties' favor to get a better and more clear answer of the question at hand. Now, these are my findings when I did the bivariate correlation, that I split the news watched as those that have watched more than 5 days per week and those that watch news less than 5 days per week, just to get an explanation of those that are politically inclined and motivated and those that are less inclined or motivated to watch the news. I also separated each of the favors for each of the political parties as over 60% and under 60%, just to explain the positive or negative feelings towards each one of these parties. So as we can see, the Democratic Party did actually decrease in the amounts of people that have negative views of the party if you watch news greater than 5 days a week by 6%, changing from 71% to 65% with a negative view. And as for Republicans, the results trended in the same way with a 1% change from those that watch news less than 5 days a week and those that watch news more than 5 days a week. So my findings, even though that they are not conclusive, and though after running some probability that they are not listed as statistically significant, I do think that they show potential for the hypothesis to be true. And I believe that to be the case because even though that the results aren't significant, that a 6% change of Democratic Party favor and a similar change, even though that it was only a 1 percentage point change of Republican favor, doesn't include any other views, what news is being watched, how that news is being consumed, or the like, even though that we can determine that watching news may increase party favorability. I think that this is just one thread that could be looked at in the future. So even though that this does align with prior research, we're not going to be able to make conclusive statements without more evidence. So for this study itself, we cannot conclude a rejection of the null hypothesis. So that is all that I have today. Thank you for watching and have a good day.